Every time I use a rideshare, I'm forced to ride without a seatbelt because there are no seatbelt extenders. It's time to make it mandatory for rideshares to provide seatbelt extenders. Read the
Yep, that is Clint's new girlfriend, and he's not here because he's giving her a piggyback ride right now. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Rudowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we will be going live for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest news developing right now, as of course there's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to Donald Trump that just announced that he will be releasing all of the JFK files, this time for real, as the Department of Homeland Security is waging a full-on war on his supporters. Wikipedia is very biased, as a new report just highlights how extremely they are, as of course this election is heating up, as Judge Judy has some very choice words for, of course, the political prosecution that's going on here. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all here for the next 2 hours. So please share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It really does mean a lot to us when you guys get these videos out there, as of course these videos wouldn't be going out there if it wasn't for you directly participating in independent media. And because you do, it really does mean a lot to us, and why we are still here 20 plus years as an independent media organization. A lot of people come and go. A lot of people don't have the tough skin to deal with a lot of the pressures out there, but truly it is you guys that allow us to still be here as we are growing, expanding, and doing some really cool, interesting things. And we have a lot of great things planned for everyone, including you guys, the members of LukeUnfiltered.com. As of course, we just had our nature hike in our audience. We actually have some of the people that were a part of the nature hike that we just did here in Lancaster, New Hampshire. As of course, this is just some of the photos that we have pulled up here from an incredible event with incredible people. Just one of the perks you get by signing up and becoming a member of LukeUnfiltered.com. As of course, you also get the ability to call into the show and ask us a question. As of right now, we do not have a caller. You could be that caller right now just by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com, going to that Telegram channel and letting me know that you want to call in, and we of course will be going to you in just a little bit. As of course, you could also participate in the conversation through Super Chats on mysuperchat.com, a service that actually shows your Super Chat on screen for everyone to see. As of course, we will be trying to read as many of those as we can throughout the duration of this conversation. And joining us for this specific conversation is a lot of really awesome and incredible individuals. As I would also ask if our audience members could turn on the lights potentially. We're a little dark here. And as we turn on the lights here, joining us for this conversation is Ronnie. He's the VP of Alpine Gold that you see the sign right behind us. Ronnie, for the people who don't know you, who are you and how would you introduce yourself?
For sure. I'm the Vice President of Operations and Marketing with Alpine Gold Exchange. We're a precious metals exchange that services the entire U.S. Our main purpose is to help make and use precious metals as money. And so that's what we do. My job is kind of like mom. I make sure everyone's happy. I make sure everything's working. I communicate with our team and make sure we continue to grow properly. And I'm excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, we needed that mom today. We had a little kerfuffle in the beginning of this, but we made this work, and we're very happy to, of course, make this work. As Martha Bueno also is filling in for Miss Clintina, who, of course, is not here. We always love to have Martha Bueno on the show. Martha, for the people who don't know you, who are you? And I think if we could increase the lights just a little bit more, if that's possible, that would be. Oh, that's the max. Okay, I think that's fine. We'll work with it. Martha, who are you?
So for this week, I am Clintina Bueno, but
yes.
You can find me on X and
Watch out, girls.
Oh, yes. You can find me on X and IG at Bueno for Miami. And, excited to be here again for the last show from PorkFest.
Finally, we get to relax. Finally, I'm like, can I get done with this already? I just want to relax and enjoy PorkFest, as, of course, this is an incredible event. We'll get into this event in a little bit, as another person joining us is Spike Cohen. Spike, also a pleasure to have you here. For the people who don't know you, who are you?
Absolutely. It's great to be back. I am Spike Cohen. I'm the founder and president of You Are the Power, and I was the 2020 Libertarian vice presidential nominee.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here. There's a lot of stuff we want to discuss specifically when it comes to the economy, specifically when it comes to, I think, if you're comfortable talking about it, your individual health journey, because the type of stuff that we talked about off camera last time, I thought was more fascinating than the stuff we talked about on camera.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so if you're okay doing that, I definitely want to get into all of those different particular aspects of story that I think there's a lot of wealth of knowledge that a lot of people could benefit from directly. But let's just get into the news right now, as I think one of the biggest stories developing right now is Donald Trump promising to release all of the JFK files and reveal who he thinks was, quote, probably behind the assassination cover-up of the former president of the United States. Now, this is a pretty big deal, as of course this is not the first time around that Donald Trump tried to do this. He was promising to do this the last election cycle, and then there was a larger kind of internal battle between him and the intelligentsia, him and the deep state, as of course he came out and said, hey guys, we're going to release it. And then the CIA said, we'll release just a little bit. And then Trump's like, hey, this is not enough, we want more. And the CIA said, no, this is not going to happen. So will this time be different is a question I want to be asking you guys, as we have a small clip to play here of Donald Trump explaining himself what he is planning on doing if they allow him to become the next president of the United States.
To do was release the JFK file. And then you said later, I saw it and I wasn't really ready to do it. And then I saw a clip where you changed your mind and you said, I think we're ready to see this file. And I'm just curious.
What's in it?
What? No, you
Tell
can't
us right
happened.
now.
What happened? Like what? Yeah.
I actually did do it. I released a lot, as you know. But when it came to the whole thing, I was hit by some people that worked for me that are great people that you would respect. And they asked me not to do it. And I'm saying, why? Tell me why. And they said, sir, I think it needs a little more time. And I released a lot, but I said, if they feel so strongly, I respect the people and would have done that again. But this time, I'm just going to do it.
RFK says the CIA killed his uncle. Do you believe that?
Well, this wasn't CIA that asked me, but I think CIA was probably behind it. But they didn't. They would have preferred that I not release the rest of it.
That's a big disclosure right there. Yeah, the CIA.
It wasn't the CIA, but they don't want me to disclose it.
Yeah, they definitely don't want us knowing exactly what happened. What? How many decades ago? How old is this story?
60 years, if I'm not mistaken.
It's long enough, unless there's
nobody's alive anymore.
Yeah, there's some like secret treasure trove that we're not supposed to know about. I mean, what are they hiding? It really makes you wonder that there definitely is something that's going to be a larger disclosure that is going to disrupt the way we view politics today, because why else would they be denying this information from going out there to the general public?
Right, exactly, and that's the thing. Just about everyone that was involved in this is either dead or well into their 80s, 90s, 100s. So this isn't about protecting them. This is about protecting why that happened in the first place, whether it was the CIA or whoever did it. So whether he's going to do it or not, we shall see if he gets reelected, if he's going to do it. But I hope that he does. I hope that he does do it, because clearly the story we were told is not what happened.
Yeah, a lot of people are automatically kind of pointing the fingers at this man, Bush Sr., that of course also had a lot of extensive ties to the intelligence agencies. But it definitely does seem like something is up here. Something is definitely not right. That we as American citizens cannot understand what our own government is doing with our own money for 60 plus freaking years when it comes to one of the biggest events that changed American history and American politics forever. Ron Paul, when we were talking for him, described the JFK assassination as the moment that the deep state took power over the federal government. When we were talking with him directly, when he was on Timcast in Austin, Texas. And I remember that conversation because it was a very kind of like wild moment, but Ron Paul, the statesman himself who knows so much about this case, coming out and saying, yeah, this is when everything changed in American politics.
Absolutely. It's a literal coup. It is the time that our United States government was taken over by a foreign entity of some kind. And in this case, it was our intelligence agency.
I kind of wish Donald Trump would kind of name names. Who doesn't want you to release this information? Who doesn't want you to know exactly what's going on here? Name the names here.
He'd like to stay alive for the election, people. Come on. He's got to get in first.
Well, there's also a subsect of people saying specifically like, hey, he should not say anything. He shouldn't announce this because this is only going to galvanize more people to try to stop him as much as they can. And there's a lot of efforts trying to stop him. There's a lot of efforts trying to undermine him and his supporters. We're going to be getting into that story in a little bit. But let's play the remainder of the clip here, since all the stuff that he's kind of revealing here, fascinating stuff, and stuff that I think more Americans need to hear about and know about more than ever.
So we did give quite a bit. It's going to be done early on. A lot of people want to see that. And whatever it may say, I won't say, I sort of have an idea. But whatever it is, it'll be very interesting for people to see. And we're going to have to learn from it.
Promise us you'll come back again, Mr.
You know, there
President.
are other things we're going to release, too. We're going to release.
Oh, really? Like
amazing.
what? What else do you got?
We'll talk to you about it off camera.
Aliens?
By the way, generally speaking, and there are reasons not to release certain things, obviously, but I generally, it's transparency, and I think it's important that we release that. And there are other things, too. There are other things that you know about. But people, more than anything else, they want the JFK files. We're going to release that immediately.
Yeah, I want a bunch of files. I want all the files. I want all the files on so many different things, so many different events. And I don't know, because I had a conversation with Kash Patel about the JFK files when everything was still unfolding during the Trump administration. We were also on Timcast. Kash was on, and I was like, tell us what's in the JFK files. You're head of the intel. You know what's going on. You're inside the seat of power. Tell us. And he kind of gave us a kind of vague answer that was a very safe answer for him to give.
Well, that laugh, that comical jest laugh, it almost felt patronizing, right? These are all billionaires, they're people of power, and it shows that they just don't have a respect for the normal people. They don't have a respect for everyday Americans, and we're fed up with it, right? I think it's that time now where we deserve to know. We want to know. He's laughing that the government is keeping secrets from its people when it's their responsibility to listen to us, right? It's not their responsibility to just protect us in a way that they see fit. So yeah, it's almost a level of disrespect that is just so clear to me in videos like this. You see them every day. It's wrong.
Yeah, they have it backwards. They think that we work for them. That's the other way around when it comes to politics, and I think a lot of politicians don't realize that. Now, I don't know if Kash Patel was placating me, but recently when I was talking to him, he was like, you know what, Luke, I think you would be great as the official declassifier under the Trump administration. I hope he's being legitimate. He might be. I like Kash. I think he's very smart. He's very on it. He's one of the people around Trump that I'm happy is actually around him. But obviously, I will jump on any opportunity to declassify any documents that I possibly can, especially when it comes to looking into the kind of seat of power that I've been looking into for so long, knowing all the ins and outs. I think I would absolutely just die.
Imagine
of yes, if
Twitter files, government style.
all of them, and that's what Trump is promising. Will he keep his promise? Will he listen to some of the kind of people that he listened to before? That's the big question. Spike, you're in politics. You know, you ran a campaign. You know how this kind of works here. How much of this do you think is placating? How much do you think is actual legitimate promises that he's going to, of course, actually do?
So this is the thing about politics, is that even if he is just placating us, it still gets us closer. This is the same thing with his promise to commute Ross Ulbricht's sentence. Even if he doesn't necessarily mean that, or even if that isn't as important to him as he's saying it is, by bringing it to the public's attention and by getting the public behind it, it actually makes it more politically expedient for him to do it. Mm-hmm. And it makes it more politically expedient for RFK to say, I'll do it too, and potentially for Biden to do it, if only to undercut support for his opponent. So even if he doesn't necessarily plan to do it, the fact that he's talking about it makes it more mainstream, which ironically makes it more likely to actually happen, because now it's politically expedient to do it.
Yeah, RFK told me personally, the CIA killed my family. Yep. And that's a pretty big admission, especially since, they were never held accountable for it. And if they were never held accountable for it, what kind of things are they doing now that we don't even know about, that we can't even think is kind of possible here?
What do you mean? That was it. That was the whole thing. They did that, and then they just started behaving. They were like perfect angels.
Yes, yeah, you bring up
I
a
love
point
the
there,
narrative that, yes, we know that all of these agencies and the federal government did these terrible things in the 1920s, the 1930s, the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, and no one has ever really been truly held accountable, and no major reforms or changes to these structures has happened. And if you think they're still doing it now, you're an absolute, psychopath conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. How dare you be a crazy, conspiracy theorist, not believing everything the government tells you to believe it.
That was then. This is now.
I know I got caught lying 0.3 seconds ago, and no one was held accountable for it. If you think I'm lying 0.3 seconds later, you're insane.
Yeah, but believe us, there's no reason not to believe them. It's not like they have an incentive to lie and profit off of, screwing us over and doing absolutely horrible things that they have always been doing. And it's pretty crazy, whether it's MK Ultra, whether it's Operation Mockingbird, whether it's all these kind of other medical kind of experiments that they have been running on unsuspecting American citizens. The level of top secret kind of projects that they run on unsuspecting Americans is terrifying, because we find out about them decades on. What are they doing now is the real question that I think a lot of people are kind of wondering about.
We also find out about them in real time. Waco was streamed live on TV, and yet we're still like, no, they're good people.
Yeah.
Yeah. The corporate
70
media.
plus children.
Feel free to adjust this, by the way. Just
70-something children perished in that fire set by them. But, it was with the best intentions, of course.
Well, and the incredible thing about that, there's a lesson there with Waco. Before they actually did what they did, they made sure that the public hated every single person in that building, including the children. So that when they saw that fire happening, they said, good, I'm glad they're finally dead. I don't want to have to look at them on my TV screen anymore.
They got awards. People got awards for killing Americans.
Awards. Yep.
Women and children.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond Americans.
They tried to appoint one of the ATF agents who was a part of it to be a part and the head of the ATF, which is just insult to injury to a lot of Americans paying attention.
Yeah. Who claimed that they were firing 50 caliber machine guns at the helicopters.
What was the caliber that they were firing again?
At 150.
The whole thing is just disgusting. I don't know how we let that one pass. I just
that one, and then defending the having U.S. military. I think it was Army soldiers defending poppy fields in Afghanistan during the war while we were over there, and production of those opiates went through the roof while we were there defending these fields for these people. After our government, after the military left, guess what happened to the production of those things? It crashed. They no longer had the protection. They no longer had that supply chain. They are not afraid of doing the worst possible things to not just Americans, but anywhere in the world. They want this to happen for money, who knows? But they're not afraid of us. They're not afraid of it, and it's not good.
90% of the world's opium came from Afghanistan after the United States invaded Afghanistan, got rid of the Taliban. Now the Taliban is in charge, and now the opium has been stifled.
And replaced with synthetic products like fentanyl.
Yes.
As a direct result of that,
Made in China, and then magically somehow just appears on the streets of the United States, even though we have a track, trace, and database secret spy frickin' infrastructure that knows everything, but can't find the large, huge amounts of drugs that keep making their way from China to the streets of the United States that are wreaking havoc on the local populations here.
Well, sorry. Oh no! Well, this is the same U.S. government that literally trafficked crack cocaine in American neighborhoods, leading to a massive, and it happened so quickly because it was a centrally planned thing that you had thousands of people dying from overdose because they didn't even know the protocol to how to deal with this kind of high level of cocaine overdose happening. Mm-hmm. And it was all to fund clandestine programs here and across the planet.
Right. So Joe Rogan just had on Freeway Rick Ross.
Yeah, we had him here on this show as well. Yeah. A brilliant, fascinating guy. He's not the fake Rick Ross. He's not the rapper. He's the real Rick Ross. That the rapper took his identity, and what he was able to kind of disclose, because he was speaking about this for such a long time. And I think if the YouTube gods allow you to see it, you could look up We Are Changing Freeway Ricky Ross. Maybe you'll be able to see it, but you could see our interview with him. But when was he on Rogan?
This past week. I'm not sure when they filmed it, but it's one of the latest episodes. And, it's wild that this man went to jail for doing the thing that the government was pushing, and literally was like, hey, you should sell this thing. You got that product over there? No, this one's much better, this one. And so, and they used this whole thing to fund their wars and regime change, and, and here we are, still having a war on drugs and still supporting the government, still paying our taxes.
No, he went to prison for being a middleman for the government.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a famous video clip of Michael Rupert, who no longer is here with us. Also, another individual that, of course, we knew, where he confronted the intelligence agencies on live national television, specifically about bringing in crack cocaine, proliferating it, and spreading it all throughout the United States. So this is the type of stuff that the secret governments are capable of, that they do, as they're probably doing something very secretive, very elusive, very bad right now, and we have no clue about it. But I think we're living in a day and age where we're getting a lot of disclosures. This is another one. Our friend Mike Benz, who also appears on the show a lot, said, "Holy F, they explicitly set up the DHS unit to go after Trump supporters," which goes in line with some of the illegal activities that the intelligence agencies have been doing against Donald Trump. If you remember, the whole Russian collusion narrative was set up by the intelligence agencies, and they spread fake news, disinformation, and they went after independent journalists like myself. They called me a Russian collusionist. They called me a Russian propagandist for saying, hey, I don't believe the intel agencies on their word here. I need to see the documents. I need to see the proof. I'm not going to believe these liars based off their own word. They literally attacked me in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, viciously attacked, attacked by Wikipedia, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit, attacked by YouTube, downranked in the algorithm for talking about the things that were legitimate. So it didn't just stop with the fake Russian collusion narrative, as of course it continues now, as America First Legal just has some very important disclosures here, as Elon Musk is actually responding to this by saying, quote, "This was blatantly an illegal attempt to undermine voters' rights," as America First Legal has the exclusive showing internal documents from the Biden's Department of Homeland Security that detailed their plans to target Trump supporters as domestic terrorists and extremists. This is the Brennan Clapper Intel Group, which discussed most of the domestic terrorism threats now come from supporters of the former president. This is an exact quote. This is terrifying. This is absolutely scary. And this is absolutely a government that has run completely out of control and is abusing their positions of power.
And for those who are saying, oh, well, I'm not a supporter of Trump, so I have nothing to be worried about, Brennan, this is part of the Brennan Clapper Intel Group. John Brennan was on the news shortly after January 6th saying that one of the groups of people that he was looking at, that intelligence agencies were looking at as potential domestic extremists, were libertarians.
Yep. And then that rhetoric has been going on ever since the war on terror, especially under the Bush administration, with them saying, oh, you have a Gadsden flag. Oh, you have an American flag. Oh, you could be an extremist. You could be a threat against America, which is kind of ironic, to say the least, as the most patriotic people are being attacked by the Republicans with the laws that the Republicans set up that are now being specifically targeted for Republicans.
A couple of years ago, I believe it was the FBI, one of the agencies, they put out their domestic extremist, what to watch out for these domestic extremists. And the symbolism, they said you got to look for these symbols of domestic extremism. Among them were the Gadsden flag, the Betsy Ross American flag, the original American flag. The American flag, the original one, is domestic extremism. Anything that had the quote from Thomas Jefferson about the Tree of Liberty, and the anarcho-capitalist flags, that was pretty cool. But and there were a few other ones and it was all like American history. It was all references to America's founders and its founding. Copies of the Federalist Papers. This is what the country was founded on, and they're saying, oh, this is domestic extremism. Which, I mean, the country was founded by domestic extremists, so that's actually not far off. But it just goes to show you how far the government has come from what it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's absolutely kind of bewildering that we're in such a situation. We're put in a place, in a predicament where the corporate media still says, believe us. We have no we're going to release more anonymous sources. We're going to have more people from the government saying, yes, just relinquish more of your rights. Yes, we're going to change assessments. We're going to change our information, and we're going to make it suit our best interests. But we're all doing it for you. We're here protecting and serving, and in reality, they're not doing any of that.
And I know this might sound naive, even from my own perspective, because of my lack of trust for government and a lot of other kind of big organizations, but it really is so easy to write a letter or to write an email to a local representative. And it sounds naive, and I know that, but these representatives are people too. A lot of them are boomers. A lot of them are a lot older than us. They're not as in tune with the information every day as we are. They're kind of siloed into who their own people in their own circle are funneling that information to them. And so they don't know these issues are as important. I don't want to speak for all of them too broadly, but I know that I've talked to many state representatives about things that are important to, me or to my family or to even my company. And a lot of them are like, we had no idea that this was something. How do I know that this is big for you guys? How do I know that this is big for families in my jurisdiction? They don't hear from us, right? And it sounds naive, and I get it, but it's so easy to just document that. I mean, you with your experience in politics, how much of that did you get from your audience? I know you're connected to Twitter and you're very, informed with your audience, but I don't see that with other politicians.
Yeah, well, I'm also not an elected official, but Thomas
Which
Massey,
is why you're effective.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm probably more effective outside of it. Justin Amash, who was in Congress for 10 years, he said, in fact, I think I mentioned this the last time I was on the show. It takes roughly 8 emails on a subject for a representative to take notice. Not a state rep or a city council. A U.S. congressman, about 8 emails is enough for them to say, this is probably something I should look into.
Yeah.
Now, you are obviously competing against big money interests on a lot of these things, so it's not to say 8 emails will change the world, but you'd be shocked how little these reps are hearing from their constituents, and it basically reaches a point where most, especially in the House of Representatives, they're basically just influencers who are told what to say by various lobbies. Well, if enough of us get together, we can be that lobby.
And they're not that different from a lot of the really cringy influencers that we see on Twitter and Instagram all the time right now. Is of course they're battling for attention, but they're also battling for a lot of lobbyists. They're battling for a lot of special interest groups, and there was even mainline studies that clearly highlighted how specifically we don't live under a democratic republic. We live under a form of government where if you have the money, you will be able to institute policy, and we're seeing that. And let's be frank here, we're seeing that with Ross, we're seeing that with Bitcoin, we're seeing that with the crypto community going around, galvanizing around Donald Trump. Some people are saying, well, he should have done this in the first. Well, he's doing it because mainly there's a lot of money now behind it. And that's the biggest difference. And this is why I think Trump is going to keep his promise, because there's a lot of money behind that promise.
Money and political expediency, which go hand in hand.
Yeah, and that's the way things work. This election, I think they're going to be spending more than any other election in recorded human history. That could be because of inflation. We're gonna go to Ronnie on that one in just a little bit here, as we have the next article pulled up here, specifically detailing how Trump bad, Obama good, as Wikipedia has an extreme bias. And of course, we always knew they had a very extreme bias. They were very biased against me personally. They were writing notes, particularly about me and my news organization, whenever we would break stories. And we broke a lot of major stories. We interviewed a lot of very prominent individuals, but we're never on Wikipedia. I don't have a Wikipedia entry. Our stories that we broke are talked about, especially when it comes to the major story that they were referencing. And I remember this because there was a document dump of all the conversations happening behind the scenes at Wikipedia. We confronted Barack Obama's spokesperson, Robert Gibbs, and we finally got an answer to why Barack Obama personally decided to extrajudiciously assassinate an American citizen, a teenager at that. Major story, headline news everywhere. We got the exclusive. We got the comment. Wikipedia on the back end was writing, hey, we got to make sure we don't reference We Are Change. We got to make sure we don't reference who did this because they're crazy conspiracy theorists. And we cannot promote them. We cannot get their name out there. And
Russian spy, Luke over here.
They were sourcing The Atlantic, which they were sourcing Rand Paul on this issue, even though we were the ones that did all of this. And they made sure that there was a blockage, there was a ban, so we wouldn't ever be even talked about on their particular platform. Now we're getting more of an insight after there was a new study that was just revealed, a new report that talks about how the extreme leftist political bias is being represented as right-wingers are represented with fear, anger, and disgust. Left-wingers are described and associated with joy, as, of course, a new artificial intelligence is being trained on the articles that it produces, as the Manhattan Institute released this information, and it's pretty jarring, and it's pretty out there. We always knew that they were biased, but some of the examples here are pretty crazy, especially when it comes to one of the most visited websites that a lot of people go to for their daily information that they rely on, that clearly is biased in many different ways, clearly is unfair. And I think this larger kind of rigging of the game happens a lot more than we know about. Obviously, we always knew that they were biased. To what extent? An extreme extent. What impact does that have on society? I think a major one, as of course there's a lot more Democrats out there than there are Republicans, especially when it comes to voting, as the popular vote wasn't won by Republicans in an extremely long time. Even the last time Donald Trump won, he never won the popular vote. What do you guys make of these kind of larger institutions, as a lot of people have said they're probably connected to the intel agencies, and the intel agencies are probably the ones that are setting a lot of this up?
Well, there's probably a lot of that, and as this report cites, this gets exponentially worse because increasingly with these large language models and AI, they rely on information aggregating sites like Wikipedia to get information. And so you now have these AI chatbots that are just regurgitating biased information and more than likely being trained by the people doing the programming using this biased information. And so they're actually creating, in addition to already having this bias built in, they're now feeding this bias into what is being sold to us as this completely neutral way of presenting information, which is AI and LLMs, large language models.
Yeah, it's not human beings censoring you. It's the artificial intelligence that gets all of their information from BuzzFeed and Reddit
from human
and
beings.
Wikipedia,
Yeah.
which is so dangerous because you look at all those platforms. I remember I used to love Reddit. Reddit was one of my favorite platforms. I used to go there. It was the kind of place where you found what people were talking about the most, sharing the most, especially when it came to not just cat photos, but breaking news and stuff that was developing and stuff that was important to people. And then slowly and surely, it just became a larger freaking psyop of just mass hypnosis, mind control, to the point where I don't even want to go on there. I don't even want to look at it. And every time I do, and I'm like, wow, you couldn't give me more of a manipulated gaslight take, that even if you tried. Now with artificial intelligence and these like machine learning kind of tools, this sets up a very dangerous kind of situation for all of us, because when they're getting all of their information from these predominantly woke leftist kind of perspectives from these institutions that control it, that propel it, that push it out there, these algorithms, these artificial intelligence, larger kind of institutions will start having more control over our lives. And when they do, I think the consequences of that are going to be very severe. Now, that's my kind of black pill kind of take on it. As of course, I remember we had a very deep discussion about artificial intelligence with Zach, one of the Google whistleblowers that helped build the AI just a few, I forgot his last name. I'm sorry, Zach Jorge. I apologize, Zach. We just had him on a few days ago. Fascinating guy, brilliant guy. And he's petrified, especially when it comes to the AI, especially when it comes to these latest developments, because the larger conversation we had was the AI is going to learn everything from the internet. You look at young kids when they grow up on the internet, their minds are warped. They become crazy. The AI is going to become crazy and have more control over our lives and be absolutely woke and insane and give us portrayals of German troops in the 1930s as strong black men and women, which they have already.
Yeah.
It is pretty wild, but you know, it's crazy because our young generation doesn't know where to look for information. They go to school, but they are not being taught these things anymore. When, at least, you know, I'm aging myself here, but you had to go to the Dewey Decimal System and, you know, look in the card catalog and figure out
You're
the
aging
source.
me as well right now.
Yeah, you know, you had to like look for the source and you had to be able to find it. And as a mother of 4 children today, I don't believe many of them can actually do these things. So yeah,
I'm so old. I remember we used to have encyclopedias, right? Who remembers encyclopedias?
Yes.
That's how old I am. Books that I was like, okay, what I need to learn about this. But now people literally go to Wikipedia to learn about everything, and now they're getting a load of crap.
And the thing with the information we received back then, there was bias built into those as well.
Of course.
But you at least had to have some level of seeking knowledge. You had to actually take positive action to try to attain knowledge and think for yourself. The positive about technology is that it's so much easier to get information, but in a way that's also the trade-off there is that you learn to just receive information instead of actually actively seeking it out. And especially now, again, if more and more of the internet is just being built by computer programs, large language models that are regurgitating obviously biased information, and like you said, Luke, you know, you look at people that are raised on the internet, they act like psychopaths. That's what these computer programs are. I remember, I think it was Microsoft. There was a reporter that was doing a chat session with, I think it was Microsoft's AI. This was like a year ago. And by the time it was over, the Microsoft AI had accused the reporter of trying to malign it and threatened to have it framed for murder, have him framed for murder, and compared him to Stalin and Hitler, and it literally went off the rails, and then would say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and put up like emojis, like an actual psychopath. And I thought, well, yeah, that makes sense. If you just spend all your time on the internet, that is how you'd communicate.
Yeah. And if you look at the Silicon Valley tech executives, a lot of them don't let their children on these devices for longer than an hour or 2 hours. They're the ones producing it. They're the ones creating it, which really does highlight, I think, also a major mental health crisis amongst our young children. A lot of particularly young girls are giving these devices. They're told to go on places like Instagram, and then their minds are warped to a place where they institute self-harm in record levels now. So that's an issue of concern too, as some people kind of theorize that, you know, maybe the AI is in charge right now, and slowly by 1,000 cuts they're creating a situation where they're making us obsolete so we never notice it, and they create a situation that is kind of uninhabitable, that is not really prosperous or not really even possible for the future generations in front of us.
It overall just weakens the need for critical thought, which I think is the biggest thing. There's information coming at us from all angles all the time, right? I'm kind of bridged to generations. I did grow up, you know, looking at encyclopedias and doing the same thing, but also going in 4th and 5th grade to the computer lab and learning how to type and doing those things. And so, you know, I have a history of doing both. I want to raise my children to learn how to discern and critically think about every piece of information that they receive. And I think that's a huge point that I don't know how much of that's being taught in schools today. I don't know how much of that's being conveyed to our peers. And, you know, when we share things, a lot of times we see the headline and it's just funny, but we don't know. Some of our friends could think that's a literal, real article. So, you know, I don't know. I think that critical thought is huge.
Don't send your kids to indoctrination camps.
Fair. Yeah, 100%.
You know, if you don't want that. And I think, you know, there's always been indoctrination. How many people can remember back to, like, being told that the pyramids in Egypt were tombs, even though no bodies were ever found there, nothing was ever recovered. So, I mean, there's a lot of indoctrination that has happened over the years, and, you know, we're just kind of, I tell that to people, and they're like, what do you mean they're not tombs? You know, or just so many things. I mean, come on.
I grew up super rebellious, and so no matter what, whoever it was, I just didn't really trust them naturally. But I was in college, and I had a professor who taught us about fallacies, right, and the different variants and types of fallacies that there are, and that someone could say a half-truth, and then someone could say, you know, I can't remember what it is, but it's like a Rolling Stone type of truth where it starts off true, but then at the end of it, it is a fallacy, it's false. And so having that type of critical thought, I was in college by the time I had had this structural knowledge of what this could be like. So yeah, I think it is important to just be active and be a parent in your own communities and help spur critical thought wherever it is.
Yeah, lots of really incredible children out here running around, being totally free, and a lot of them not in their cell phones, not like just totally out of it, zombified by these dopamine addicting kind of devices.
I'm 42, or soon will be 42 years old. I limit the amount of time I spend on social media and on the internet, and I try to make it purposeful. I do it to put out the causes that we're doing at You Are the Power, or to give a take on something that's going on politically. Anytime that I go outside of that limit, however many minutes past the couple hours I allow myself, I am that much more depressed and black-pilled for the future. I lose track of time for the day. I walk away feeling disconnected from reality. The days where I say, you know what, I'm just not even going to go on, I don't have any reason to go online today, I'm not going to, are invariably the best days of my life. I also have the perspective of growing up without that technology for the first 15 or so years of my life. These kids have had it their entire lives. They don't have a perspective of what it's like not to be constantly connected to the internet. You see people that will literally stare at a camera and tell things that they shouldn't be telling anyone, or maybe their closest loved ones. They're telling the entire world because they have no perspective of things like privacy, of propriety. They're basically like zombies for the internet.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I mean, another reason to come out here to PorcFest. I don't know if you had looked around, but you don't see a lot of people here on their cell phones. And
No.
this is a great place to bring your kids and have them disconnect from that.
Except me, when I'm trying to research and figure out what stories we're going to be talking about.
But you're always a freak, Luke. You don't count.
You're working.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
you're
working.
working.
It's different. Yeah. But I mean, you can walk around here and have conversations with people who aren't stuck on their phones. And it's a week of reality, and I love it.
Yeah, the campfires are pretty awesome. Just being able to sit back, listen to some of the conversations, and just to get to know a lot of the people. And again, getting back into nature, touching grass, more important than ever, because we're living through very turbulent times, and I think we really got to enjoy the times we have now, because we're going to get a lot worse. And I don't say that lightly. There's a lot of things economically, a lot of things technologically that are going to be, of course, happening that are not going to be fun. But this is why we're doing nature hikes. Again, we just did another one. Your memberships really do mean a lot, and we can't thank you guys for spurring on this kind of larger culture that we're trying to spread, saying, hey, get off the phone, get off the internet, meet your fellow like-minded individuals. This is why PorcFest is amazing. This is why it's such an incredible event, because you're able to go out there and really understand you're not alone. Fear isn't the answer. There's a lot of solutions, and there's a lot of really cool people doing really cool things, especially when it comes to business and enterprise. And this is why we want to talk about your business. We're probably going to be talking about Alpine Gold in a little bit, because you're doing a lot of really fun projects, especially when it comes to gold backs. Yeah. I had some of them here, but everyone here is trading gold backs, using gold backs, and even some of the people that were on the nature hike, one of the nice ladies who was here was like, are they using alternative currencies here? I'm like, yep.
Yeah. Yes, we are.
And they're not taking credit cards. They're taking cryptocurrencies. They're taking gold. They're taking silver. They're bartering. They're trading. Gold backs are an amazing product that people here, part of the Free State Project, use a lot and extensively, that you guys have available here.
Yeah.
We're going to read off some of the super chats before getting into more of the conversation. As of course, we have one here by Andrew Jacobs, who says, welcome back, Clint. If not there, get well soon. Yes, Clint, get well soon. He's very busy with the ladies, so what can I say here? He's a very busy guy, but we love Clint. We appreciate him. We love giving him a hard time. We got another super chat here from Ryan DC saying, can you talk about the DOD Ukraine bill, Idaho water curtailment, cobalt mining today? I don't know if that's anyone's forte here, but it's not really mine. But I don't know if we have that ability to talk about that particular topic, so we apologize there, Ryan, as we have another one from Crash Bandit that says, Reddit equals a digital version of MK Ultra. Thoughts? I agree. That's a great assessment. I think that's one way of putting it. As of course, a lot of information, sadly, is weaponized. A lot of information is used for the benefit of a lot of very powerful individuals, and those who control that information essentially now control the world, as data is the new oil.
And they're publicly traded now, right? As
Yep.
well, so they have to share all their documents and make everything public. So, yeah, I think that that's a big part of what we should be doing every day is just protecting our privacy, protecting our thoughts, like you were saying, like some of these things that shouldn't necessarily be shared with the world, people just do. But yeah, keeping private things private and things that you don't want to get shared with literally the whole world, probably smart not to put them on Reddit either.
Exactly. Or even just to use credit cards.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are like, wait, I can't. And they're like, nope. We take gold backs. We take cash. We take there's a literal. I don't want to, you know, put too much spotlight on some of the things kind of happening here. They're really fun. They're really awesome. There's a literal ATF store.
There is, and they're so fun.
We did it, everyone. We finally made the ATF a convenience.
Yes,
Yes.
we made the meme. We made the meme a reality.
The meme is real. It's right up.
And you can buy alcohol, tobacco, and I don't know about firearms, but definitely some firearms
accessories and stuff.
So
but,
we have the coolest ATF definitely out there. But
there's like
so
fake ATF agents running around.
I am
and just
so
being
curious
silly.
about that super chat. I wonder if the super chat would want to call in later in the show because I want to know about these cobalt mines. So, you know, hey, invitation. Let's go.
Yeah, we still don't have a caller for lukeunfiltered.com. You could be that caller. Sign up and then go to that Telegram channel, as we have another story pulled up here that I really wanted to get into. As today, we also found out that Joe Biden founded a cancer charity that donated nothing to cancer. Yes, this is according to the latest IRS findings. You would think this would be something that the FBI, that really doesn't like people making mistakes on their paperwork, would kind of go after.
FBI, IRS.
Yeah, yes. You would think, you know, Alvin Bragg's in New York would see this as kind of a major issue that they would kind of be bringing up here, but it definitely does seem like we have entered a new form of legal lawfare that is pretty crazy, and it's only going to probably ratchet up from here, as the legal judicial system sadly is being used for a lot of individuals to express their political power. And we also have seen this also from an attorney general that just tweeted that they will be filing suit against the state of New York for their direct attack on, quote, our democratic process through unconstitutional lawfare against President Trump. It's time to, quote, restore the rule of law, says the Attorney General of Missouri. Now, for me, these are kind of crazy times. These are very dangerous times, but the legal justice system, I think, has been swayed. It's been swayed by a lot of people in politics, and it definitely seems like those things that were balanced are kind of being taken and used as battering rams and bashing people over the heads because of their political thoughts and expressions. What do you guys think, and just how crazy do you think this legal lawfare is going to get?
I don't know. I'm still hung up on the Biden Cancer
That's
Institute. I am like, whoa.
His son died of cancer.
Yes.
Imagine your son dies of cancer, and you leverage that to make a nonprofit that's basically, what is it? What are they saying? They're just paying off.
They spent millions of dollars to fund his staffers. That was supposed to
Wow.
go to
That is the
the
most
Cancer
cynical.
Institute. Yeah, this is according
I'm
to
so
Mario
disgusted.
Naval.
You know, I am absolutely horrified right now, and it takes a lot, right? Like I know a lot of really bad things the government has done, and like Biden or the Clintons or whatever, but this is just a whole.
It's hard to
other
be surprised anymore. Yeah,
right. This is like a whole other level of like, oh my God, I am.
It's like you know,
I have
he's
no
on
words.
his son's deathbed or at his funeral and thinking, man, I'm gonna make a fortune from this. Like it's
I really want to make money off of this.
yeah. Oh
How
man,
could I use this to
everyone's
my
gonna
benefit?
feel so bad for us and like insane. Absolutely not. But to go back,
borrow a line from you and oy vey.
Yeah,
Like-
oy vey, yeah.
No,
Shut it down.
this is sinister. This is next level kind of evil, exemplified by Joe Biden, who again is a man of the lobbyist. A part of this organization was also a major Pfizer executive that doubled his salary, as of course the president.
Not surprised.
Yep, the president of that group came out and said that the charity just ran into problems because Biden had to focus on his presidential duties.
Because before that, Biden was running the show at the micro level, and once he got busy running for president, then the whole thing fell apart. That makes sense.
It reminds me of the Clinton Foundation. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, they're a very upstanding organization. They banned me, by the way, personally, a number of times.
They banned you from doing what?
The Clinton Global Initiative used to have these major events in New York City where all the celebrities and all the politicians would go to, and then I would infiltrate and confront all of them and ask them questions about all the things that they didn't want to talk about, and then they personally kicked me out, called police, called security, and then banned me. And now every time that they had the kind of shindig, they made sure to call me and say that I'm not welcome and that I'm going to be criminally trespassed if I show up at their event after confronting many of their kind of politicians.
But with your experience with Russia, you think they'd be more.
I know,
happy.
as a Polish person who has a long history of not getting along with the Russians, you would think that would be something that's going on here. But again, these Democrats, they hide behind a lot of these organizations, a lot of these nonprofits, a lot of these kind of groups. I had one video that went absolutely viral. I think it received 30 million views, and it was a Haitian talking about the Clinton Global Initiative and their larger kind of Ponzi scheme that they ran on the people of Haiti, and absolutely took in hundreds of millions of dollars, but they just personally used it to fill their own pockets with it, which was incredulous, but also disgusting on so many levels. The people of Haiti, especially after that major earthquake that happened a couple years ago, were struggling so much. They were dealing with so many problems. The Clintons said, "We're going to help you guys. Give us all your money." They literally took it for themselves. That's how ruthless, that's how evil some of these people are. As Spike, you brought up a very good point. His son died from cancer. You would think they would have their priorities straight to say, hey, we got millions of dollars here. We're not going to give it to our salaries. Let's actually try to make a difference here. As of course, we talked about this issue extensively on a free speech platform. It's not fun to talk about health stuff on YouTube. YouTube really doesn't like that. So we'll have to save that for a little bit. But here's the New York Post article titled "Tax Filings Reveal Biden Cancer Charity Spent Millions on Salaries, Zero on Research." Again, this is
I'd
absolutely
like a refund.
disgusting. Yes. And of course, the top response is someone saying, "This is my, oh, what a surprise," face.
The thing is, I'm not surprised at the just cynical, blatant corruption. That doesn't surprise me. I'm surprised that he would use something like his. As I'm saying it, I'm not surprised anymore. But it should be surprising that a politician would lose one of their closest loved ones to a disease and then say, I'm going to create a front group leveraging that death and that tragedy to make money for my buddies. It's just insane to me.
Cypher 9, adrenochrome is expensive.
Yes,
I'm guessing it is. I mean, spot on. That shit's expensive.
Our comment section is the best. We have another one saying, "Fill Dem pockets," which makes sense for what the Democrats have been doing. As of course, if Donald Trump did this, if someone even in the right of center would do this, I think it's fair to say that the FBI would be on them immediately, and they would be charged extensively and brought through a court of, quote, justice. But Biden, will he face justice for this?
He won't. He's not competent to stand trial. We've already determined this. There's no world in which Biden is going to stand trial because he's not there. But he's okay to run for president, guys.
They literally
by all
said,
means, vote for him because he's fine.
They literally said he's a kindly old man who's just very confused about things. So you should vote for him for re-election.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't say that part.
That's our guy.
Yeah, but they
Four
decided
more
not to
years.
charge him
4 more years.
with crimes he obviously had committed because he's not really there anymore.
Yeah.
He's not really.
It's an embarrassment.
Yeah. And I personally do agree with those who say that there's a good chance that there's going to be a switch up from Biden to someone else because the corporate media wouldn't be talking this much about how Biden's falling off. And I do think, Biden's been slowly sundowning for quite some time, but I think in the last maybe say couple of months, he's really gone downhill where it's like he's barely lucid ever, and it shows. Like, they're not having him do televised interviews anymore. He's flubbing, reading from a teleprompter to the point where he's not even intelligible.
Is he going to make it to the debate next week?
Yeah.
I wonder if they're saying...
Well, they have miracle drugs, which they probably will be using. But there was even a journalist that came out a few weeks ago and said, I interviewed Joe Biden, but the campaign said, these are the questions you're going to ask.
Yeah.
You're not going to deviate from them. And this is how tightly they control the corporate media, where they don't get to ask a question. They get to read a script that the Biden administration wants them to read. They're the ones that are putting on a play for the general public to pretend, he's actually taking your questions. He's not. He's only taking the questions that, of course, they want him to take, which highlights how everything is a facade, everything is fake behind closed doors. And I might disagree with you a little bit, Spike, because I think the most surprising kind of outcome will be Biden running and Biden winning. I do agree with your assessment that he got into the presidency because of the corporate media. That kind of is flip-flopping on him a little bit. Yeah. But I think they're trying things out. They're kind of testing things out, and I think they're more uncertain themselves than we kind of realize, and I think they're going to run the course. And I think with so much of the institutions that they control, that they could be that confident. Some would say overconfident, but I think they're that confident and have so many different things already prepared, especially with the shadow campaigns running against Donald Trump, that I think he will pull ahead. I think he will become the next president of the United States.
And so do you think this is almost like they're setting up for like a come from behind story, or they're just testing the limits of how much they can screw with us before it's still doing whatever they want? Or?
I think there might be a concerted effort to push people over the edge.
Okay.
I think there might be a concerted efforts to poke, just like you see in American foreign policy. They kind of institute these kind of actions that provoke an action, and I think they might be trying to
create.
And again,
blowback.
this is my own kind of personal opinions. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but from my assessment, I always try to think of what's the next step, what's the next big thing, and I think it might be trying to push people to be angry and be violent. And this is why we always say non-violence is the answer. We should never use the main weapon of the state, which is violence. Violence is the state that they have mastered, and any people calling for violence, I automatically think are kind of feds, and aren't people who realize what they're calling for or talking about.
Any person who tries to encourage you or anyone else to engage in non-defensive violence is either an idiot, a fed, or both. Either way, get away from them.
Yeah, not
excellent
good
advice.
people. And I do think that might be that might be the course that we're on, especially with Trump's sentencing that's going to be happening on July 11th. That might see him behind bars. That might put him in jail.
Oh, we're going full Nicaragua now.
Yeah, and if that happens, I think there's going to be a lot of very angry people, a lot of very scared people as well. And I think remaining calm and not giving the government what they want is going to be very essential during that key kind of moment. That's just my assessment. That's what I'm just reading on the walls. What do you guys think will happen? Do you think they're going to change Biden, or do you think they're going to run Biden?
I think I've been saying for a long time they're going to remove Biden. And originally I thought it was going to be like a Gavin Newsom or something. But I think he's so unlikable that they're going to have to pull out all the stops and go with like a Michelle Obama or an Oprah Winfrey or somebody that people like and are not political, because I don't think they have anyone, to be honest. Like, who could they pull? I don't.
It ain't Kamala.
Oh, no, for sure. We talked
not.
about
It's
this
not
last time on the
Kamala
show.
Harris,
It's like, we're not.
There's mainstream media articles saying replace Kamala with Hillary, which would be extremely dangerous. This was an op-ed from the Wall Street Journal.
gosh.
We talked about this yesterday, but this is something
still makes me laugh, even though we talked about it yesterday. It's like,
this is the thinking process of
We
the corporate
must
media.
find someone more detested than Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
and they found it in Hillary Clinton.
No, mission accomplished.
Congratulations, Deep State.
Yeah,
y'all know how to pick them.
So to answer your question, I mean, I honestly could see it either way. I could see it that they're setting the stage to switch him up with a Gavin Newsom or like a Oprah Winfrey or something like that, a so-called non-political pick or mainstream pick. But I could also see that it's like you're saying, that this could be they're just poking the bear and seeing how far they can go to get the reaction that they want. whatever it is, it's not good intentions.
It feels like a trap, right? It feels like no matter what's happening, like there's a trap that they're setting.
What kind of trap is it?
Something is going to happen.
Trap, yeah.
It's like, okay, let's see how these Trump supporters respond to this kind of big event, whether that's him going to prison or whether that's if they replace Biden or not. Either way, it feels like there's a trap coming and there's just going to be some bait and switch that happens. Yeah. So I don't think that they can. I think they're limiting the coverage of the G7 summit because world leaders are commenting to their own constituents about how out of touch he is. They're like, he's rambling, he's falling asleep in our meetings. Is this the representative that they're going to put forward again? I don't think it's possible, right? I think they're going to replace him.
Do you ever wonder if like Trump is kind of part of that too? Am I the only one that's like, what if?
Well, I mean, he's like 83 too, right?
Right. Yeah, but I mean,
how old is he?
Like, okay, so it's all the deep state.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't he kind of part of the deep state too? Like,
listen, I said this many times.
I love that.
My friends on the right get mad when I say it. The deep state got like 85% of what they wanted from Donald Trump, including the big one, the lockdowns, and Fauci being able to do basically operate as a dictator for several months. And when you have a Republican doing that, that allows the Democrats to say, this isn't enough, we must do more.
Yeah.
Whereas when a Democrat's and it also neuters the Republicans, right? So you only have a handful of people like Thomas Massie and when Justin Amash was still in office saying, no, we're not going to vote for the CARES Act, no, we're not going to support these bills, and Trump threatening them with primary challenges if they didn't fall into line. So when you have a Republican doing it, you may only get 80 or 85% instead of 95%, but it neuters Republican opposition, at least in Capitol Hill, and it allows the Democrats to jump off of that and say, no, we need even more than what we're getting right now. So it's kind of like the best case scenario for them. I will say, when I hear even now when Trump's talking about releasing the JFK files, and he's saying, there were some people, really fine people that you would actually respect, who told me that I shouldn't do it. Or when you'll hear him talk about, he wants to build the FBI a beautiful brand new building. These people are trying to put him in prison right now.
They hate you.
They hate you and want to kill you, and they're doing it in front of everyone. And I don't know if that's just an oddly conciliatory thing that he does, or if he's, setting up for, 15-dimension underwater chess or whatever. But to me, it just seems like he's a Republican politician who, talks like Ron Paul and then governs like Mitt Romney.
That's great.
That's solid.
It's going to be interesting to see his potential administration kind of play out if they allow him to become the next president of the United States, because he absolutely did piss a lot of people off. And for a lot of people, they just kind of want to see him in there just to piss those people off that much more. So when it comes to, I think, highlighting how things really work, I think Trump is kind of fascinating and gives us a lot more insight than all of these other polished politicians. The stuff he said about oil and American foreign policy was something that protesters have been saying for a very long time. Yep. That finally came true when Donald Trump said, "Yeah, we're just here for the oil, guys. We're here for the petrodollar." We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I think Trump has my support because of Ross. And that to me was the kind of thing that really changed a lot of things. He is, again, 78 years old. We talked about his health because the Biden administration is now trying to say that he's too old to be president of the United States, which is crazy. But I definitely look forward towards the larger shakeups. Do I have a lot of high hopes for him? No. I think the high hopes are with individuals, with communities, with people coming together, voting with their dollar, voting with their clicks, and making small independent decisions that actually amount to something bigger than just depending on everything to change once every 4 years through a ballot box. So that's why we're here at PorcFest, an amazing event, amazing people. That's why we have you guys here, part of the show, talking about this, as now we are going to be moving away from this particular censorious, AI-controlled, technocratic digital gulag, and we're going to be moving towards a free speech platform that actually respects people to have discernment and critical thinking. It is this platform that we are on the front page of that YouTube doesn't even like us mentioning. Again, we're in like YouTube jail. YouTube is like angry at us, and they have been really screwing us over in the algorithm. Go over right now to this particular platform where the conversation continues for another hour, all on this platform, front page. You don't even have to look for us. We're here on the front page,
Got a
continuing
tent and everything.
the conversation in a tent.
That's great.
Fighting over video
Accurate.
equipment,
Yeah.
making it happen. Also, shouts out to you guys, Daniel Diaz from Citizens for Sound Money, Pat Holland from Missouri Freedom Initiative, also Alpine Gold for allowing us to have this studio here, making it happen, sharing the equipment. It really does mean a lot. We're going to be talking about your company, your struggles, what you're seeing with the dollar, as well as health stuff, as well as kind of deeper stuff that we couldn't, all on another platform. Before we do, Ronnie, where can people find out more information about you?
Cool. So you can find out through his link. What was the URL?
GetIntoGoldNow.com.
GetIntoGoldNow.com. It's a great way to jump into our website. There's a resources page that has a ton of links to tell you more in detail about who we are and what we do. We're solution providers. We're not here to fearmonger. We don't want to scare people about clickbaity titles or anything. We want to create solutions for people to have options with their money. It's what we do most of our lives next to sleeping. We spend more time at work than we do with our families, and it's unfortunate, but that's the reality that a lot of us live in today. And so that's what we're doing, and go to that
Awesome.
URL for reference.
Well, we'll put it in the chat room so people could just click on it, and we already have it in the description. People could just click on it, find it right away, and then get involved. Vote with your clicks, vote with your likes, vote with your dollars that hopefully you change into gold and silver or other alternative currencies. Martha?
Both X and Bitcoin and all that good
Yep.
stuff. You can all find me at X or IG at Bueno for Miami.
Spike, where can people find out more information about you?
I'm all over the internet. So
You have
can
an
find me
interesting
from-
project that you work on, too, that we never got to talk about last time.
Yeah. So I have an organization called You Are the Power. And what we do is we find people that are being abused by their local and state governments. We organize to cyberbully the officials that are harming them until they capitulate and back off. And we've had a very high success rate of doing that. We've reunited families. We've stopped eminent domain cases from moving forward. We've stopped zoning abuse. We've stopped people's homes from being stolen. We've stopped elderly men from being kicked out of their grandkids' home. We've stopped a lot of corrupt government officials who just needed to be
A little bit closer.
Who just needed to be cyberbullied.
Awesome. I want to talk about some of your success stories on this other platform that we're going to over right now. It looks like we have our caller lined up, going to callers. You could be that caller next time by signing up to lookandfilter.com. Again, incredible nature hike today for the members, and we're going to do it. I'm going to try to do it at least once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks, as these things are, I think, really